And we're live. Okay, welcome back to the F1 weekly news show. It was a bit rushed for time today, and seeing as we had kind of racing back, just finished off watching FP1, it seemed a good time to kind of just squeeze in for about 20 minutes a live stream. Rounding up the news, I suppose, obviously, you see by the thumbnail, the main news this story, well, one of the main stories was Mercedes changed their livery in support of, obviously, Black Lives Matter and supporting Lewis Hamilton. And obviously, look, there's a mix of how people feel in it. I think it's a really kind of strong and important message. Obviously, Mercedes changing their livery, it's not going to stop. It's not going to end racism, but it's the kind of what it symbolizes and what it kind of supports on there. I think it's good. Liam and Sam, welcome. Thanks for coming on to the chat, both of you. But yeah, no, with the Mercedes livery, it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think on it. But I think it's a really powerful statement. We can't change the past, but they can only affect what they're kind of doing in the present moment and going there. And I think it's a really positive message. And obviously, with the F1, We Race as One program as well. McLaren have that. A lot of the teams have the We Race as One kind of incorporated into their liveries now, whether kind of bits of the rainbow. I think that's a very cool as well. Hello to Nico and hello to Katie as well. Hello, Fergus. Thanks for everyone coming along as well on this live stream. But yeah, I think those initiatives and the way that the teams are really embracing it is a positive sign and step. And all they can do is try and make the change and kind of use their platforms for good. And I think it sends a really positive message. And so that probably covers that bit of the news story. For me, Ferrari are probably the next big story because a lot has happened on the Ferrari front. Just watched FP1. They didn't look great, but obviously they set their times on mediums and you can't really take too much from practice, especially as it's been so long. They're going to be running kind of different ride setups and everything along those lines. But yeah, I just think on it, it doesn't necessarily look great. They came out publicly and said that they got their design flaw. Well, their design was flawed and they're bringing updates for Hungary. Was that just kind of they were kind of bluffing? Early signs it doesn't look that way, but who knows what's going to happen on Ferrari on that front. And then very interesting, actually, Sebastian Vettel, obviously Ferrari came out and said that it was an amicable breakup and that, you know, both parties agreed. Well, basically, Seb said yesterday in his press conference that Mattia rang him up and said Ferrari won't be offering him a new contract. For Sebastian fans, obviously, this doesn't feel like the way a full-time world champion should be treated. For Ferrari, I actually think it's probably quite a smart move that they just kind of went, yes, Seb, you're not going to be with us anymore. We're going to go behind Charles Leclerc because Charles Leclerc is the future. Sebastian, it hasn't really kind of worked out for him at Ferrari like he hoped. And yeah, they're ready to kind of start this new chapter under Mattia Binotto, under Charles Leclerc, and he's going to be the new star man at Ferrari. So it's not great, and it's certainly not the best way to handle things. But in terms of a decision by Ferrari, it's not the worst. I'm trying to think of other news. So, I mean, let's talk about actually, as we're here with the F1 Weekly News Show, we've just seen FP1. Obviously, people are starting to kind of discuss, you know, what's been happening on track. Max first spin of the season, pushing the limits. Christian Horner was saying, obviously, you know, by this time, Austria has actually had quite a few races on this track as well. But this is fresh. It hasn't had racing on this track for months. So that definitely is different. But early signs in practice, Mercedes looked quite good. And it looked like McLaren's pace looked fairly decent. And also Racing Point's pace was decent. Obviously, I saw Katie in the comments with Kevin Magnussen faster than a Ferrari. Yes, he was on the softer compound, Katie. But yeah, the other fortunes of the Haas driver, Roman Grosjean, he had a terrible morning, didn't he? He only got out really for kind of a last lap, wasn't even able to set a time. So yeah, that was Liam. Surprising Seb didn't spin. Oh, poor Seb. The spin jokes are always going to be there, unfortunately, for the past couple of seasons. Sam, obviously, yeah, sad about Grosjean not being able to get out. But yeah, it was the Honda engines that spun. Who was it that spun in the AlphaTauri? Was it Gasly or Kvyat? I can't remember who spun on that front. But how good does it feel to kind of see cars live and back on track? That it's absolutely amazing, and it's going to be so interesting this weekend to see how it goes. It was Kvyat. Cheers, thanks for that, guys, in the chat. Liam's a Ferrari fan, so you're not going to be happy about what happened just there in FP1, that's for sure. But yeah, news stories from the week. I think it's just all really been about building up to this moment, and also obviously what we started about it is the movements, the statement by Mercedes and the We Races One, that has been the kind of main effect, and obviously Ferrari not kind of cocking things up. But did you see, I posted it or retweeted it on Twitter, the COVID test that the drivers have to go through? That looked so horrible. Apparently I heard as well that's both nostrils and a kind of back of the throat one that they have to go through. Like, it isn't just kind of like a swab up the nose, it's like right deep in there. I was talking to David Noble, who said that he has kind of sinus problems and had it. It just feels really weird and grim. That was horrible. So certainly there should be no questions what the drivers and all the teams and everyone's going through, just to make sure that as fans we can kind of be entertained and see a racing back on track. Yes, I did talk about the McLaren livery, obviously with the rainbow We Races One kind of incorporated. I think actually that goes quite nicely on the livery. They've incorporated that really nice, and for me it looks like that's the one that's most stand out, because they also have it on the halo, don't they? I saw it had on the Williams halo, but I'm not sure too many other teams who had anything on the livery on that front. Yeah, the Williams had the rainbow halo, but I couldn't see anything else from the other teams as We Races One. Obviously they just shared. Interesting on that. I made I think a bold prediction on Nico's Pondering's channel yesterday that Alfa Romeo would be the better Alfa this season. And from what early signs of, I know it is just FP1, but the AlphaTauris didn't necessarily look great. And I think they were times both set. I think it was about half a second in between the Kimi Raikkonen, Kimi Raikkonen, Giovinazzi and the AlphaTauris in the end. Gasly and Kvyat both struggled, it seemed to be, on that front. But yeah, it really, the midfield teams, I still think we're in a bit of a kind of mix of where everything is. Is there anything I'll throw to the chat? Is there any kind of new stories that you would like to discuss from the last week, or is there anything you've seen in FP1 that you want to discuss? Obviously, one of the big questions actually was DAS with Mercedes, wasn't it? And it said Ted said that DAS is here, and I don't think it was being operated in FP1. I don't think, yeah, they did bring it out. And interestingly enough, Crofty, I think, asked Christian Horner when they had him on the mic whether that Red Bull had a DAS system, and he was very kind of vague in his answer. He was very much of, well, we'll see what Mercedes do. So I think Red Bull will have their own DAS system, and just wait to see the effectiveness and difference of what that will be for Mercedes. And I think they're happy to kind of write off this weekend with DAS and see how it goes. Tracing Point did look very good, Josh. Thanks for coming in on chat as well. Yeah, well, it looked good until Sergio Perez early doors had kind of smoke coming out of the back of his engine. But at one point, both Racing Points were topping the time charts. But yeah, the Racing Point, the hype looks real. It doesn't look like their pace from testing was false. It does look like they certainly will be at the top end of that midfield. Whether they'll be better than Ferrari, that's another question. Yeah, F3 practice is on now for anyone who's got Sky F1 and wants to kind of watch that. It'd be interesting to see that. I'll be catching up with the F2 and F3 practices later on in the day from there. But yeah, it was going. I believe Bottas was using DAS. Sky didn't realise what the replay was for, but it was showing DAS. Okay, so DAS was used in FP1, but yeah, it was confirmed that it was going to be here this weekend. So I guess Red Bull will very much just kind of see how it goes. Hello, Minecraft. Thank you for obviously commenting on videos a lot recently, and yeah, thanks for kind of coming on and being in the chat. Yeah, Perez had engine problems, but it seemed like it was sorted. The main issue from practice was Roman Grosjean, unfortunately. Sam, I'm sorry about that. And I feel sorry for F1E Reviews Dan. His first comment was, or tweet I think I saw out was just, not the start he needed to the 2020 season after all his reliability problems. That was it brake problems for Grosjean? I think I missed that in terms of that. But yeah, it certainly, it's crazy that I'm trying to think of who else gone. Renault looked there or thereabouts, actually. And obviously, it's the first time we've seen the full yellow livery, because the testing livery was all black with the yellow numbers, wasn't it? So that's the first time we've kind of seen the rendition. It's probably like it pretty much is a carbon copy of the 2019 one for me. But it's interesting to see Esteban Ocon back out on track. Obviously, it was massive for him to get out, and FP2 later this afternoon. That's really going to be a huge one for him, because he hasn't done that since his time at, well, then Force India, because obviously he left before it became Racing Point. Well, me and Josh were kind of talking during practice, and he was like, Grosjean hasn't crashed yet. I'm not sure how to feel about this. It's because Grosjean wasn't out on track. He couldn't, but poor Grosjean. He certainly is the one. The Williams, unfortunately, looked near the bottom again. Obviously, yeah, we can't take too much times, but when the kind of more regular times started coming in, it seemed like the Williams were still looking at the back end of that grid. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but hopefully they are still good. Better McLaren. Yeah, I think, I don't know whether McLaren is better, but it certainly looks like they will be in that strong position that they were at the back end of last year, which was best of the rest, and a little bit clear of Renault as well. Just going through Alpha. Oh, hi Joe from the F1 Club. Make sure you kind of check out his channel. He also did a Q&A, I think you released this morning, didn't you, Joe? Ahead of the new season. So make sure you go and check that video out. But yeah, the AlphaTauri. I mean, I was kind of saying this. I didn't think, for some reason, AlphaTauri, they didn't really seem in it in testing, and I was thinking that they weren't going to be, necessarily too great this season. And early signs from FP1, obviously it's only practice. We're not really going to see a kind of real performance test until we have qualifying and the race on Sunday. But yeah, early signs doesn't look good. Paushka is just saying hi to Josh. Did you see the interview with William Story? I have not yet seen that yet, but I've obviously that is from Will Earl, who obviously runs the FP1 podcast. If you guys want to know, obviously, William Story, the CEO of Rich Energy, who I'm not a fan, because obviously they negatively influenced the sport for me. And he was, I think from the clips I saw a bit of Josh watching it, that he was talking about Lewis Hamilton was bad for being too political or something. And he was saying that Rich Energy were being back in F1. But if I'm being honest with you, if Rich Energy never appear in F1 again, that would be a good thing. I think they're a negative influence on the sport, and William Story, he's one of these kind of con men, I think, that talks a very good game and somehow manages to kind of be in something. But apparently, according to the ones, Josh is one of those guys who've done a video on a taste test. Apparently the drink is actually tastes quite good itself, so I don't really know. Is Sainz rapid, or is everyone else sandbagging from Joe? I don't know. The McLarens did look quick. That's one of the funny things, isn't it? The coverage starts and they miss Sainz being the first out of the pit lane. It all goes to that kind of joke, doesn't it, of last season, that Sainz was ghosted. And I don't know if Sky are doing this deliberately now, because you literally couldn't write it, could you? That it's the first practice, the first car out of the pits is Carlos Sainz, and he gets missed. Unbelievable. Just quickly from Josh, screw bad Santa. Thanks for that, Josh. I know your points are there. Ferrari has a pretty bad car for 2020. What do you think? Yeah, obviously, like we were discussing earlier in the stream, um, they came out and said that they had a design flaw, and basically they had to change their entire concept after testing, but they weren't able to bring that change of concept until Hungary. So I don't know whether they've just sacked off Austria and its damage limitation. Early signs in FP1 don't look great, but you've got to remember, obviously, that there is a mix of compounds. They weren't all on the same compounds. FP2, from memory, obviously, it's been a very long time, is usually when the guys put in their qualifying time around about the middle of that session, where they're all on the soft compound. So that's probably going to be a really good test to see where Ferrari actually are. But I wouldn't be surprised if McLaren and Racing Point for these Austria races maybe we're closer to Ferrari. I'm not sure whether they'll be ahead. I think Ferrari still will be ahead. Their car can't be that awful. But yeah, I'd expect McLaren and Racing Point to be quite close. It's a bad time to be a Ferrari fan, Liam says. It's like between 1983 and 1996. Yeah, absolutely. Ferrari are the biggest underachievers in F1 in terms of their resources, and unfortunately, it looks another bad season. That JB, welcome to the chat. Nice to see you. I think Haas could be dark horses for this weekend. They always run well in Austria, and K-Mag was in the top 10. I think Grosjean unfortunately couldn't get out much. Yeah, Grosjean couldn't get out much, JB. But yeah, Magnussen's not a bad shout of being an outside bet. Obviously qualified P5 last year. Katie are probably quick to jump on that in the chat. A massive Kevin Magnussen and Haas fan subsequently on that. But yeah, Haas historically have gone well there. Will Williams be ahead of Haas this weekend? On first showing, Jacobin 22, I would say no. Williams do look like they'll be at the back of the grid. Their pace didn't naturally look good, but FP1 was always going to be just testing out setups. Christian Horner, I think, was on when he was live on with Sky, was saying that he very much setup is so key in Austria, and it's so kind of fragile to the different setups. So they certainly. You certainly wouldn't have seen the ideal setups or ideal times from a lot of the teams this morning. FP2 at 2:00 is definitely going to be the one to tune into and get a kind of better glance of what's probably going to happen. Racing Point looked to be fast, which is really nice to see. Real Ben Holmes. Yep, it was nice to see. It's nice to see that the hype is real. It wasn't just kind of faking testing. They do look very good. Just more on kind of Perez doing there. Williams looked better. Yeah, they did look better, I think, but I think they're still going to be at the back. Okay, nice, Sam. Enjoy the F2. See you later. Thanks for joining in. Oh, look at that. Liam's doing both. Thank you for watching both. I hope you're enjoying the F2 as well. What's going on in the F2 currently at the moment? Someone can update me on that. I've just got Sky Sports in the background with the funny kind of social distancing interviews there, but it's something that we just have to see. I'd say Alfa Romeo might be at the back, in my opinion. AlphaTauri don't look too great either, but it could just be track specific. Could be. Kimi, from memory, last year didn't perform too badly. I think he got in the points in Austria last year for the Alfa Romeo. There, Pashka, Das was being used. Yeah, Das was being used. Bottas was using it, apparently. Apparently there was footage of Bottas using Das in FP1, so expect it to be used this weekend. Stephen, coming on, obviously, you know Stephen from the channel. Does FP1 show Max will win the World Drivers' Champion this year? No surprise that Stephen's going Max. Yeah, the spin is going there. Well, actually, funnily enough, we were playing F1 2019 yesterday, and we did the Austrian Grand Prix as Max with Stephen's choice. We spun quite a lot of that section during practice and went on to win the Grand Prix. So I guess that's a sign that Max Verstappen is winning this Sunday. Clearly, maybe not. But it certainly will be interesting to see there. Mission spin out. Oh no, Liam coming out with all the Ferrari jokes there. You have to laugh as a Ferrari fan or you cry probably. Sky Sports F1, all I can see are the interviews. Yeah, that's what I see. I might take out Kimi depending on FP2. Oh, that's in fantasy. Is that relating to Fergus? Yeah, it'd be interesting actually in fantasy teams. Obviously, we run the F1 Fantasy Weekly. Obviously, the teams are only locked in an hour before qualifying, so you can look at both FP2 and FP3 um, if you're looking at kind of your fantasy teams and unsure on a couple of people who to change. Definitely go from there. I will laugh F2 on scene. F2 is going to be interesting to kind of see. Oh, message retracted from JB. We'll go from there. But I think probably this was only meant to be kind of a quick live stream, but I'll give you kind of a heads up for the weekend ahead. Obviously, our usual kind of live stream coverage will be after about 15 minutes after qualifying. Just gives me time to kind of do the thumbnail with whoever got pole. That'll be a question. Who do you reckon is going to get pole tomorrow? Early signs. I'll send out a tweet with a poll on that as well. Not a poll on the pole sitter. But yes, qualifying live stream would be about 15 minutes afterwards, and the same on Sunday, just like this, where I'll do a run through. I'll talk about my opinions of the race, and then we will talk about that as well. But yeah, no, it's good in this chat, guys. Thank you for kind of joining on the live stream. I hope you've kind of enjoyed rounding up, talking about FP1, a bit on the news as well. That Mercedes livery, has to say, looks incredible on track. It's not only a bold statement, and you know the message is far more important than what it looks like, but it does look really good as well. But anyway, let's just kind of we'll round it off there for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Enjoy FP2, enjoy the F2 and F3 if you guys are watching. Obviously, we'll be back after qualifying tomorrow, but obviously be regularly tweeting on @fanatics_F1 to keep up to date. And like I said, I'll put out a poll on who is going to get pole. I think the main ones are probably going to be Lewis, Max, and Charles, and then you can comment other if you think it's going to be somebody else. Or yeah, we'll do the usual Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and you got to comment with the driver. But anyway, guys, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.